So, Leah, you're the founder and long-term global small cap leader in investing. One of the things I think is really fascinating about your fund, the Lizard Investment Fund, which is accessible in Australia through the Pengana Smaller Companies Fund, is how low the exposure is to North American companies. So I think it's about 36% as compared to if you looked at the global international shares index, it's sort of 60% US and then another 3 or 4% to Canada, so 65%. So big difference. Is that conscious?
We're stock pickers, and we look for the best opportunities at the best prices, and we gravitate towards situations where we have less competition, just like we like companies that do not face as much competition. And the North American market is the most well-researched competitive market. I mean, think about it this way. There used to be this old phrase, of somebody looking for a key under a lamppost, and you say, "Where did you lose your key?" And he said, "Well, 3 blocks away." And you're asking, "Well, why are you looking here?" And he'll say, "Because this is where the light is." Well, that's what the North American market is like. Everybody's looking at it, okay? So it's much harder to find those fat-tailed opportunities. And we do find them, but the number of stocks that have listed in other places over the last 20 years with globalization, with fall of think of all the markets that were uninvestable 20 years ago, and you can trace the number of opportunities, and we're opportunistic.
And I think one of the things when you talk about global smaller companies for an Australian investor is, I mean, you're talking about, $1 and $2 billion US capitalization companies. I mean, there's a lot of companies in Australia that size that we think of as almost blue chip market leaders.
Right. Well, those are the ones we look for.
But I think it's interesting to the extent that presumably there's an enormous diversification opportunity for Australian investors to get into industries and markets that are quite different from Australia. Is that your thinking?
I think what we offer is a diversified basket of industries and countries and individual, what we think are very, very high quality companies that don't necessarily correlate with the industries that dominate within the Australian economy and the strengths of the Australian economy in general. I see a trend away from home country bias everywhere in the world, and I think one of the reasons we're here is because we see that there's a need in this market for what we offer.
One of the things that many investors are attracted to is the simplicity and cost effectiveness of indexing.
Right.
Would you suggest that your fund complements someone who's got an index-based representation across the broader market because your fund is doing something really different?
If you look at very large cap stocks, it is very difficult to add value. There's very little that isn't known. If you look at our universe, I would expect anybody who would invest with us would demand that we add value. And that's, and it's a straightforward exchange.
Well, certainly you've had an amazing track record of doing that. And so it's wonderful to spend some time with you.
It's lovely to be here.